let's not kid ourselves here. We all knew that coming back from our 3-year break, we would be met with some of the worst that this show could offer. We knew that Stranger Things Season 5 would be bad. And even if you weren't conscious of this thought, you knew something turned in your stomach at the idea. We knew that we would once again be dragged through the terrible love triangle that is Steve, Jonathan, and Nancy. We knew that the kids that we loved in Season 1 were going to be a flanderized version of what they used to be. We knew that Hopper was going to be stuck in the same cycle he's been in with no real meaningful resolution. And we knew that Will Byers was going to look into the camera and yell, "For Israel!" Flashback, what happened in Season 4 that made us think like this? What could possibly go wrong in arguably the best season since Season 1 of the show to make the majority of people think this way? Well, that's the problem. Nothing went wrong. There is no conflict between these characters anymore. Hopper and Eleven are together again and have made up their differences again. Nancy and Jonathan are dating again. Steve is forever single again. And everyone's ready to gather in a circle and sing Kumbaya in Whoville to defeat Vecna, who is currently spawning giant ravines to the pits of hell in the middle of Hawkins. There's no plot thread here worth stretching over an entire season of television, especially when you're planning on making multi-hour episodes. You're better off making a series finale movie and maybe you get 3 hours of good content out of that, but obviously that's not what they're doing. Instead, they want to drag this out over the most botched release schedule imaginable. They can't release it all at once like they used to because they need to drag out subscriptions to make more money, but they also can't release it weekly because that goes against the whole binge culture thing that the show originally got popular on. So what do? Well, they release it over these weirdly shaped chunks over every month or so. One being 4 episodes, the other being 3 or something, and then the next being 1. It's great. It's a great idea. It's an illusion of what came before, mere nostalgia bait to keep people believing that this is the good old days. Speaking of nostalgia, let's talk about Season 5's treatment of these characters. Someone that I made a video on because they became an AI freak once made a great analogy to Stranger Things that I will be stealing, just like he steals other creators' content when he uses AI, so wah cry more. Imagine Season 1 is a car that the creators really wanted to make, and every single piece has a very specific purpose and goal in mind, and overall, it's a really good car. The character writing is fantastic, the drama is always captivating and never feels like your time is being wasted, but always makes you want to see what happens in the next episode. The soundtrack is just right for the time, but never feels like it's a romanticization of what the 80s was. The kid actors are actually good at their jobs, which is the biggest miracle of all. Then, after a successful season of television, you are told that you need to take this same car and make it into a boat. It's going to be pretty hard. It might not be water sealed at the end of the day, but you know what? It's functional. It's a boat at least. And it can float for long enough, so it's fine. It's all right. Then the vehicle gods say, hey, you need to take this car that is now a boat and make a plane. And you fail miserably. You desperately try to buy all the right parts you need, but you suddenly run out of budget and this thing can't even get off the ground. But hey, at least it has 4-wheel drive. Then you finally get the opportunity to make this abomination into a car again. Yes, we've got random wings popping out of the doors. Yes, the horn is way louder than it should be. But we can rebuild from this. We can fix it up later. Everything will be fine, right? Well, do I have news for you? You now need to turn this completely fine, operational car into a carrot on a stick. And we're all out of carrots. What I mean by this is that this season of television lacks so much confidence in itself that it constantly has to remind you of every little thing about the first season to desperately keep you watching long enough to get to episode 4 where stuff actually happens. No plot? Bring up the love triangle with this terrible green screen, even though we spent $480 million on this production. No interesting character dynamics? Let's bring up Hopper's daughter again and hold the audience's hand through the entire conversation.
That's why you don't want me in here.
Yes, honey, I know what that means. This isn't even an isolated problem with the writing. This problem bleeds into the editing and the soundtrack. There are scenes where information is being delivered that isn't nearly as interesting as I think they wanted it to be, so they put this almost trance-like score underneath it that feels like I'm being put under a spell to wipe my mind of something. Specifically, whenever Robin talks to Will about the overarching plot in Will's powers. I don't know, they probably call that gay aura or something. Even when they do anything with Will, as interesting as it is to see him and Robin talk about unrequited love as two gay people in the 80s, when Will gets his Mega Israel powers at the end of episode 4 and we get all these VHS flashbacks, it just feels like the same trance dance that we've been doing for the rest of the episodes. Look at Will from the first season of Stranger Things. We love Stranger Things Season 1. Ignore all the world-building problems that we've invited into the room by allowing Will to just come up with these powers on the spot, even though it took 11 years to develop her powers into something usable. This is character development. Ignore the fact that Vecna's plan does not and will not make any sense no matter how much recontextualization you do in the second part. It's all just good nostalgia. Anyway, remember her? Because I sure didn't. Apparently, we were so desperate to pack as much nostalgia into these first 4 episodes that we needed to scrape the literal bottom of the barrel by pulling from the worst episode of season 2. We are cooking. Of course, the creators of the show are going to spew nonsense and say that it was all a part of the plan. A strategic seed planted out of nowhere to pull out at the last minute to move the epic saga forward in a way that will shock the viewer and elevate the narrative into the grand finale that will be in the cultural zeitgeist for another 100 years. Or it's a very obvious plot twist and fake out death that was telegraphed from the start. Plot armor. We know it, we love it, and boy is there a lot of it. This show has the ability to make the Demogorgons the coolest demons ever while also being one of the most non-lethal hive minds I've ever seen. We got Demogorgons, dare I say homie-gorgons, tossing up the ops and comboing them like they're LeBron James. And then they'll go up against Nancy and Mike's parents and they can't even do enough damage to kill them? I guess Ted is just built different? The show has been very clear that no matter what happens or how powerful Vecna becomes, no one is going to die, except for Steve. If that were true, half the cast would already be dead at this point. Vecna would have slimed Will and his mom along with everyone else in the upside-down military base. Nancy and Mike's parents should already be dead, and there's no arguing against that. And this is off topic, but did you guys low-key forget that Nancy and Mike were like brother and sister? Because they do not act related at all. I don't even think Mike cares that his parents are gonna die. I'm telling you, these actors were better when they were kids. Oh, Eleven and Hopper should also be dead because they should be wearing hazmat suits in the upside down, but that's something they forgot about a long time ago, so it doesn't matter anymore. Hopper's already died like 3 times in the show, so nothing matters. The show will only get worse from this point on. The writers coming out and saying all will be explained in part 2 only confirms that. No amount of cope can save the show. No matter how much explaining they do, they cannot reverse the cataclysmic damage you've done to your show already, even in the opening scene of the first episode. Oh, those bottomless pits to the gates of hell that spawned in the finale of season 4? Well, didn't you know? We covered them in metal sheets. This is a $480 million production, by the way, and it looks like this. Speaking of money, holy Batman, are there a lot of sponsorships thrown in your face. First, we got Gatorade in a glass bottle solely because, oh my god, remember glass bottles back when we were a free country? Anyway, buy them at Walmart for double the price for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Steve being obsessed with boppers out of nowhere really is so confusing. The candy doesn't even exist anymore. There's no point to doing this. The perfectly lit, perfectly wet, perfectly placed Dr. Pepper cans at lunch. Listen, I'm Dr. Pepper's #1 fan, but I'm not looking to be pandered to while watching a Netflix show. You might be thinking I hate the show, and honestly, I really don't care. It's just funny at this point. This show hasn't been serious for like 4 seasons now. The one thing I do love is Derek. Derek is the best addition to the show since Samwise the Brave. All his lines are bangers, not a single miss. I love Derek. I honestly don't know why he wasn't added in season 1. He's too good. I had a friend who hasn't watched the show who just decided to join for a watch party, and he just assumed that Derek was a returning character because that's how much aura he has. He's the goat to the show, to be honest, and it's gonna be sad when he gets slimed by a Demogorgon on Christmas Day. Anyway, that's really all I had to say about this show. There's really nothing to say considering that nothing happens in the first 3 episodes. Making a bigger video solely depends on how the finale shapes up, because if some of those leaks that I saw were true, God, is this going to be the greatest failure of all time. All right, shout out to the members. Y'all are homies. It's $2 a month. Give me your money. Goodbye.